From people being mad at me because they didn't read the Bible, so they want me to explain to them how to live a fulfilling life without kids, which I will do by the way, to a Delta employee standing up to a quote trans woman and threatening to kick him out of the airport. We have a jam-packed show, so without further ado, let's begin.
Facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
A few weeks ago, I talked about a major way on how to live a fulfilling life. That, of course, is to have a child, but of course, there are other ways of living a fulfilling life, so today I'm going to talk about some of them. We cannot neglect that the most important thing to do is for everyone to have a child, not just for civilization reasons, but also because that is the easiest way to live a fulfilling life. But I do understand that might not be possible for everybody, and it might not be feasible for everybody at the same exact time. So let's begin with some of the alternatives. I'm 19 years old. I don't know as much as our Lord and Savior does, so I'm turning to him for this. According to the gospelcollection.org, when the Lord closed Hannah's womb, as seen in 1 Sam 1-5, quote, she mourned, she cried out in distress, she wept bitterly. Verse 10, she did all of this to the direction of God. She did not hold her pain inside, but instead emanated directly to the one who caught her tears. P.S. 58-8. Jesus was single and without children. Paul was single without a child. And they both exiled singleness as noble and courageous as can be. 1 Cor 7-8. The person that wrote this article said that she, quote, decided to use the time and energy that she would have used to care for children to instead care for the Lord's children who are not her own. The article then ends off with, quote, set your eyes on the new heavens and new earth. Rev 21-1-7, where none of God's children will be parenting and all will be joyful praising him. Everything will be new. Everything will be glorious. God will be our Father and we will be his children. We will all be one family. Nothing else will matter. I couldn't agree more with all of this, and if you can't have children, you should look towards living your life for others as God would want you to do, and you should be doing this if you don't have children. I mean, obviously, these are the easiest ways to do that. There are other ways on top of this, so if you want to live a fulfilling life, give your life towards God. If you cannot just fulfill the prophecy, you cannot just fulfill the requirements for everybody to have children and to repopulate and make sure that the population is ongoing. Like I said, we do have a population crisis. I do understand that some people can't have babies. Some couples cannot have babies. For that, I would say that we need to actually look towards God. We need to be going to church more often. We should be giving ourselves to communities, giving back. We should do what God would intend us to do, but now even further because of the fact that we do not have children. This is very easy to do. I like to spread the word of God. I like to say, listen, God is great. God is king. Jesus is king. And I like to say, listen, we need to stay here. We need to be taken back by society. We need to say, no, this is not what we should be doing in a flourishing society. And I reject society as we have it right now. People are saying that we should do these preposterous things to ourselves, which no, it would not be prosperous for us to be doing the things that they are forcing down our throats. So no, we should reject those ideologies and go back to our true ideologies, the ideologies that's been around for years and years, millions and millions of years, and what started the whole entire society as we know it. So if you do want to read the whole entire article, I will link that down below because it's very, very important for everybody to read up on it. A lot of people say, oh, I already read the Bible and it says this. No, you didn't. If you read the Bible, then go back and read it again because you clearly did not understand it. Some people misinterpret the Bible to say some awful things and it does not say anything about that. So with that being said, let's dig into the next segment, which is the headlines of the week.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
So beginning, we do have the Delta employee that I was talking about at the beginning of the show here. Okay, so Delta Airlines employee goes viral for standing up to, quote, trans activists at airport. So a man who appears to be a Delta Airlines employee went viral this week on social media after he stood up to an alleged transgender activist who was upset that the man did not use his preferred pronouns. It appears that the video was taken late last week, potentially at New York's LaGuardia International Airport, LGA, given that LGA appears on the employee's jacket. The perpetrated transgender individual in the video, who appears to be the person holding the camera, complains that he was misgendered because an airline employee called him a he. Quote, it was intentional, but if you want to take it personal, that's also okay, the employee responded. The transgender activist continued by complaining that another woman intentionally misgendered him twice. Quote, "You're being condescending, and if you want to continue, I have full authority to escort you out of the building this moment if you want to play that game with me." The employee fired back, "Would you like me to continue 3 days before Christmas? I really don't mind." The transgender activist responded with, "I'm good." So let's just see this awesome video right here. This is exactly how you need to respond to these kind of preposterous ideologies that's showing up to your doorstep. At your job, you need to go and comply with somebody that is just lying to your face, saying that he's a she and he's a he. Listen, I don't care who you are. You were born as what you are. You cannot change that. Every single inch of you that God created is what it is. I'm a guy. I cannot change the fact that I'm a guy. Every single gene inside of my body is a guy. Every single inch of me is a guy. I cannot change that whatsoever. It's not possible to change that. God intended for me to be a guy. I cannot be a woman. I have no idea what it is like to be a woman, because women are powerful in their own way, and so is men. Men are powerful in their own way, just as women are.
And what about when an adult employee misgenders you intentionally?
While he's talking, you're talking.
You just misgendered me again.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Gotcha.
Both of you have.
Okay, I got you. That's exactly how you need to respond to these people.
Sorry.
Wasn't intentional, but if you want to take it personal, that's also.
Well, she did do it intentionally twice.
You're talking to me too.
You said she and then you said he.
You're being condescending, and if you want to continue, I have full authority to escort you out the building right this moment if you want to play that game with me.
Okay.
Would you like to continue 3 days before Christmas? I really don't mind.
I'm good. I'll just put this on.
Yeah, exactly. You're good. Listen, your gender is not up to you just to decide what you are. So what people perceive you as is exactly what you are. You can either take it how you want it and say, "Oh my God, why? You're hurting my feelings." Or you can say, "No, listen, I'm a guy. People are obviously going to call me a guy. And if I want to dress like a woman, then that's one thing, but you're not a woman." It's called woman face. So continuing with the article, the employee received strong report online as most who commented praised him for standing up to the activist. Quote, "Trans activists tried bullying an airline employee for misgendering," wrote the popular X account Libs of TikTok. "The employee wasn't having it. This is the correct way to deal with these narcissists who demand we give them their delusions. It's all a power trip for them." Attorney Kirk Skutzler responded, quote, "You are not morally obligated to play along with nuts who demand attention and obedience. This is how it's done," said podcast host Hansen Kissen. "We must stop being a society of adults who are afraid of children who want to enforce their speech codes on the rest of us." And I completely agree. You cannot have these people get what they want, and what they want is to control your speech. Do not let them control your speech. Moving on to the next article, we do have another Daily Wire article. We have United States launches airstrikes after multiple service members injured in attack. United States military launched airstrikes this week against an Islamic terrorist group in Iraq after the group injured multiple United States service members in a drone strike on Christmas. United States forces in Iraq and Syria have been attacked more than 100 times since October 17, according to a recent report from the Military Times. 3 United States service members were hurt, including one who was in critical condition after the terrorist group launched a suicide drone at the United States base in Erbil in Iraq. In response to the attacks, the United States conducted airstrikes against multiple facilities used by Kataib Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed terrorist group, and affiliated groups in Iraq late on Monday night. United States Central Command said in a statement, quote, "Early assessments indicate that these United States airstrikes deployed and targeted facilities and likely killed a number of Kataib Hezbollah militants," the statement said. "There's no indications that any civilian lives were affected. The United States military will continue to evaluate the effectiveness of these strikes." Commander General Michael Eric Kurland said that the strikes were intended to hold accountable those elements directly responsible for the attacks on the coalition forces in Iraq and Syria to degrade their ability to continue the attacks, which is a good thing. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said that the other terrorist groups were also that have been involving in attacking United States forces in the region were also Iran-backed. Let me be clear, the president and I will not hesitate to take action necessary action to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests, Austin said. "There's no higher priority. While we do not seek to escalate conflict in the region, we are committed to fully prepared to take further necessary measures to protect our people and our facilities." And I completely agree. We need to protect the West. We need to protect America. We need to band together and say, no, you know what? We're not going to be bullied by militants abroad. We're not going to be bullied by people that want just pure terror. These are terrorist groups in the Middle East. We're not going to be bullied by them. We're going to say, no, you're a terrorist group. We're going to make sure that our military officers that were attacked is going to get justice. We need to make sure that Israel is safe and protected from abroad, because they're the only country in the Middle East that actually has people have rights. So this is what I don't get about the left too. They want people to have rights, but then they look at the only country that actually gives women the right to actually show their face in public. They look at that country and say, no, you're bad. And then they look at the groups like Afghanistan, which force with killings, potential killings, women to hide their face, hide their whole entire body out in public. And they look at those countries and say, you're the good guys. No, Israel does not force their woman to cover up their whole entire body. Women do not have any rights. They cannot drive a car. They cannot go and vote. They don't have any rights. And like we talked about a few weeks ago, gay people are actually killed in Gaza. Gay people are killed in Afghanistan, and gay people are killed in Iran all the time. In Israel, you can be a gay person and not be killed. So which country are we going to take, which country are we going to sit here and say, which one's better for rights? Human rights in America would be more suitable and more compatible to Israel than any other Middle Eastern country. So why are we going to attack Israel? That's the only country in the Middle East that actually gives its people rights. So with that being said, we do have another segment. We have the media's takes. So digging right into the media's takes, we actually have a CNN article. We have 2024 United States presidential primaries explained. So here's CNN explaining the presidential election for 2024. Before Americans pick a president in November, they get to pick the candidates in a series of primaries and caucuses. Not in the Democratic side, though, because RFK was just ousted, and not really ousted, but he was rejected the ability to actually primary Joe Biden. So what he did instead was run as an independent. It's a wonky process that has evolved over the course of the country's history and continues to evolve today. Here's what to know. What is a primary? It's an election to select candidates, except for when you're a Democrat and they already selected one for you, who is running in the primaries. For Democrats, Joe Biden is the sitting president and is running for re-election. Yes, because they did not let RFK run, or they did, but then they rigged the primary, so then RFK just had to run as an independent. Incumbents rarely face serious competition. There are some Democrats challenging him in the Democratic primaries, including Rep. Dean Phillips of Minnesota and Arthur Marine Williamson, but they have not yet generated much support, at least in the opinion polls. Okay, so how about RFK? They're just going to completely ignore Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Okay. For Republicans, former Donald Trump has long been the front runner, meaning he appears in polling to have a great lead over 5 candidates who are still in the race. Trump, as a former president, also projects some of the power in it as an incumbent. Although he lost the last election, his first serious campaign by a former president has his party's nomination since Teddy Roosevelt tried and failed to reclaim the presidential nomination in 1912. Anti-Trump Republicans appeared to be interested in two main options. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Haley has polled better in New Hampshire, and DeSantis has focused in Iowa. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. Okay, Asa Hutchinson has not had any support. Why are we even mentioning him? You know who has more support than Asa? You know who has more support than Asa Hutchinson? Chris Christie. So how about we just do the Chris Christie, the DeSantis, and the Nikki Haley? That's it. That's all we need here. Vivek is so low in the polls. It does not even matter. Asa Hutchinson has like 1% of the votes. So everybody else in the race except for Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and Chris Christie don't matter. Who can vote in presidential primaries? So it varies by state. Primaries are generally conducted in polling places like any other election. But some states have, quote, open primaries, meaning any registered voter can vote in either the Democratic or Republican primary. Other states have closed primaries, meaning only people registered in a particular political party, usually Republicans or Democrats, can vote in the party's primary. Others offer voting day registration, which essentially opens the primaries to most registered voters. When do presidential primaries occur? The first date for the presidential primary calendar is January 15. Wow, try saying that 5 times fast. First presidential primary calendar. Okay, I guess it's not that hard. Although it is not technically for a primary. On that day in Iowa, Republican members gather at events called caucuses, where they hear speeches from a campaign supporters and then vote for their preferred candidate. No, this is how it would go if CNN's mind was actually exploded and the IQ was actually the same exact thing as a McChicken. So this is not how it goes. Yes, this is how it's supposed to go. Like according to CNN, this is how it's supposed to go, but this is not how it's supposed to go. No, you don't just take your opinion and say, well, let's look at the facts here. Who am I gonna vote for today? Let me listen to a speech. No, you're just gonna vote. You're gonna go in, you're gonna ignore the speech if there is a speech, and then you're just gonna vote for the person that you already know. Because the media likes to already choose for you who you're gonna vote for. By saying, oh, that person's bad, oh, that person's evil, oh, Russian interference, and that's the same exact thing as what they did in 2016 and 2019, right before the election in 2020. All of these things from the media. And then they're going to pretend as if we have nice, fair elections with all the facts first and no opinions. No. Listen, guy, you're out of your mind if you think that there's no influence peddling from outside sources. They don't just go in and say, okay, let me listen to you, Trump. What do you have to say about this? No, they're not just going to say that. You're ridiculous here. You're going to have your little media anchor there. You're going to influence the primary. No, I don't trust that whatsoever. So moving into the next article, we actually have an MSNBC article. We have Trump's immunity appeal argument is more dangerous than it seems. Whoa, dangerous. Oh. Former President Donald Trump is doing his best to tie up special counsel Jack Smith's election interference case for as long as possible. Okay, and so is the Democrats trying to prosecute Trump for something that he did not do on January 6th. January 6th. So, with the Supreme Court's decision last week to forgo Smith's request to skip to the end of the appeals process, Trump's legal team is focused on appealing trial judge Takina Kirtsane's ruling from earlier this month. Trump is especially keen to rescind his presidential immunity defense that would effectively shield him from any other charges Smith brought against him. Much of the brief Trump's lawyers filled on Saturday is a rehash of the unfounded constitutional claims that Kirtsanen shot down. But among those well-trodden arguments, Trump all but requests the appeals court to rule that the judiciary has no power over anything he did while in office, to rule, in effect, that Kirtsanen has it wrong. He does possess the divine right of kings, and as such, no other branch of government can touch him. The basis of this truly bonkers assertion is a favorite of Trump's. That separation of power safeguards him from any kind of oversight. In the past, his lawsuits and defenses have focused on the legislative branch's attempts to hold him to account, or bizarrely, claiming that the Justice Department can't breach executive privilege. Okay, but can you tell me where in the Constitution it says that they can? They're saying, oh, this is what he said, blah, 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 blah. Where in the Constitution does it say that you can't? So this is what they're saying. An 1803 Supreme Court case actually says this. So under the doctrine of separated powers, neither a federal nor a state prosecutor nor a state or federal court may sit in judgment over a presidential officials act, which are visited in the presidential alone. His lawyers wrote in a brief. They emphasize that the president's official acts aren't examinable by the judicial branch, a principle that extends back to the landmark 1803 Supreme Court case, Marbury v. Madison. Trump also contends that senior officials like, for example, the president, shouldn't face criminal charges from a possible hostile judiciary. Both of these arguments are based on a set of very horrendous assumptions. First, the idea that the judicial branch can't touch him at all hinges on the phrase official acts, as it's a broad phrase that, generally speaking, refers to actions taken by the president that involves enforcing duly passed laws. If President Joe Biden issues a policy related to the climate change provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act, for example, that's an official act that can't be basis of civil or criminal charges against him. For example, we can take in 2020 election after all the official acts sanctioned under duly passed laws in this version of reality rather than trying to retain power despite losing the election. Okay, so This is just already stupid here. He was not trying to take over power and retaining power. He left on January 6th. He left. He moved out. He left the White House. You cannot say that he tried. He tried to retain power. He tried to grasp onto democracy, and democracy won in darkness. What are you talking about? On January 6th, Trump left the White House. If he had questions about the election beforehand, every single president before him had questions about the election. In 2016, they nonstop said that Trump rigged the election. They nonstop said that Trump had foreign interference from Russia. Oh, the James Comer investigation. Oh, well, James Comer. Oh, the Russian interference, blah, blah, blah. We have evidence that he rigged the election in 2016 and blah, 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 blah. CNN has nonstop talked about this. Nonstop. Russian interference. Oh my God. Oh, poor Hillary Clinton. She was robbed of the election. This is CNN all day long. MSNBC all day long. All day. Ooh, 2016. All over again. And now when Trump does it, now when Trump merely questions the election in 2020, it says, guys, we had some pipes burst on that day and people can vote. The printer, the scanner for the mail-in ballots at that place, the polling place, was malfunctioning. They told people to go from location to location. People could not cast their vote in this one community. I call an investigation to be in that one community. Guys, can we do this? No, you are trying to overthrow the election. How dare you? Okay, so what, we can't raise questions here? 2 weeks after the election was passed. For 2 weeks, it took so long to count. How come every other election in history we could do, in America at least, we could do in one day? That night, we know who's president. When you take longer and longer to count the ballots, it's not safer, guys. It's actually less safe because now people trust the election less. If you have it out that same exact day like we did in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, we knew when I went to sleep that night, I knew who was going to be president that very morning. I mean, I didn't know who was going to be president, but I knew that the president was going to be revealed to me that very morning. That's what I meant by that sentence. So when I went to sleep, I woke up and I asked Siri, I said, who's the president of the United States? She said, Donald J. Trump. That morning, I knew. January 8th, I knew that the election, I knew on January 9th who the president was. Not January, whatever the heck, January 21st, 24th, whenever it actually got revealed to us who the president supposedly was. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, well, this could completely overthrow, and this means that Joe Biden is not president. No, it means that there's questions about the election. We are allowed to raise these questions, and those very questions were answered in the Supreme Court. We have questions about the election. Let's bring it up to the Supreme Court. Let's have the Supreme Court look at it, and then we can go from there. But we cannot sit here and say that this 2020 election was not full of any questions, because there was questions, and there was so many questions, in fact, that the Supreme Court took up cases for these very questions. It's ridiculous to me, and it's preposterous to me that CNN likes to ignore all of the things that the right said was suspicious about the 2020 election, and that the court deemed as reasonable because they took up the cases. They heard the evidence. What resulted in that was completely different, was something completely different now. Now we're getting into, okay, the nitty gritty of did this actually happen? Let's look at some evidence here. Unruled. But, going back to the main topic, right? The Supreme Court still decided that the evidence provided at the very beginning, at least, was enough evidence to actually bring the trial to court. And the trial did go to court. So now tell me, how many times did Trump and his family members go to court for things that they did or didn't do? Tell me, who in the Joe Biden family went to court for things that they did or didn't do? How many times was Trump unfairly prosecuted versus any other Democrat unfairly prosecuted? Yeah, it's not even feasible. How many times the scale is completely broken on the opposite side. Trump went to court, and all of his family members, Donald Trump Jr., everybody in his family went all to court way more times than Joe Biden and his crime family ever did. Even though he had 20 shell companies that combined made $24 million. That's money laundering. This was just revealed. And some people are in the comments saying, oh, well, how about you say some evidence from the Joe Biden trials? Okay, but the trials from Joe Biden and the impeachment trials never went to court. We just probed in December 18. The Democrats, the Republicans just probed onto the impeachment trials in December of 18, this month. How can we sit here and then say, oh no, well, this person went under oath? Who went under oath? Please tell me who went under oath in the impeachment trial for Joe Biden. They're merely probing to find evidence for the impeachment trial. So the people with their preposterous claims that this trial already went on and that they already saw no evidence for the impeachment trial is preposterous. It's preposterous to me. This impeachment trial on Joe Biden just started getting probed this month. A few days ago. It's now on this. Today is December 27th. On December 18th, less than 9 days ago, the probe just began. It did not go to court. It starts as a probe. They get all the evidence together and then they go to court. Damn. People are just, it's beyond me how ridiculous people and the ideas people believe in are. It's just beyond me. With that being said, we do have a couple of different articles to get to. We do have a Daily Wire article, though. We do have Netanyahu. Red Cross refused to take life-saving medicine to hostages inside Gaza. We already know American Red Cross does not actually care about the citizens that they are supposed to be helping. They instead are going to sit here and say, oh no, well, we're helping, and then they don't want to go into any situations that are actually dangerous because now they're scared for their own life. So it's like, do you actually want to help these people, or do you just want to sit here and make a quick couple of bucks here? I think that's what they want to do. They want to do the latter. So, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said this week that the representative for the International Committee of Red Cross refused to bring life-saving medications to Gaza hostages still trapped inside Gaza. Netanyahu remarks come as Israel has intensified its operations against Hamas and Islamic terrorist group that murdered 1,200 Israelis on October 7th in recent days as it seeks to return of the commander of the hostages that Hamas kidnapped. Quote, I met with the Red Cross. I handled them a box of medicine for some of the hostages shown here. Some of them really need it, Netanyahu said. I told the representative to take the box to Rafah. She said no. It was a difficult conversation. We are sparking no effort, both seen and hidden, to bring all of the hostages. We are sparing no effort, both seen and hidden, to bring all of the hostages home, he continued. I just returned from Gaza. I met with the division of reservists on the field. All of them asked me for one thing only. We must not stop. We must keep going until the end. Netanyahu said that the media has been wrong in reporting throughout Israel's operation to root out Hamas from inside Gaza. We do not stop. We keep fighting. We will be deepening the fighting over the coming days. This will be a long battle, and it's not even close to being over, he added. So, of course, the media will always lie when it comes to people that are actually doing good for society and good overall. We can even see that Israel has had thousands and thousands of rockets. For the amount of people that were killed in those rockets, the civilians, obviously every single civilian killed is a harsh thing and a sad thing. But this would have never even happened if it was not for Gaza starting the war, violating the peace treaty that they had on October 6th. Gaza's the one that did that, not Israel. Everybody in the comments are like, oh my God, how dare you? This ceasefire right here, this is what Israel broke. No, this is not what Israel broke. This is what Gaza broke. On October 6th, they had a peace treaty, and people are looking back in 1942. No, 1942 does not matter. Just in 2008, they had a ceasefire between Gaza and Israel. 2008 and today, they had a ceasefire. Gaza broke that ceasefire. And then they're saying, oh no, there's an open air prison. What are you talking about? The last time that I checked, a city the size of New York is not an open air prison. For you to have control over your own city, your own states, to make your own rules, to import and export as you wanted before you caused terror in the region, of course, is not an open air prison. You made it, Gaza. You made it like how it is today. Hamas, you made Gaza how it is today. You're to blame for this. If you don't want the environment that you live in today, then why did you cause it for yourself by causing horror and terror for other countries around you? Doesn't make much sense to me. Moving into the next article, we do have a Daily Wire article. We have introduced new policy forces men's bathrooms in Parliament to stock tampons. tampons. Now, of course, this is obviously for him. Justin Trudeau needs the tampons inside of his bathroom because of the fact that he needs the tampons. He's a full-on girl, so he needs the tampons for himself. So he's stocking up the men's bathroom in Parliament to stock for tampons. Okay, men's bathrooms in Canada's Parliament will all be stocked up for tampons, just in case he wants to come by. At no cost to those who want to take them, thanks to a new policy championed by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The new policy, according to a report published by the New York Post on Tuesday, extends to all federal workplaces, from military installations, just in case our United States Army goes over there, and government offices to airports. So just in case Justin Trudeau stops by the office, or he wants to go to America so he gets on a plane at the airport, he needs to make sure that he has tampons everywhere for him. And mandates that feminine hygiene products may be available in every restroom, regardless of the gender symbol on the door. Wow, so wonderful. Former Canadian Senator Linda Forum, a conservative, shared a photo of the products on her X account, along with the comment, "Back in the day, when only women menstruated, we have to pay for our own products, but now men can menstruate too. These products, as of this week, are mandated to be free in all men's washrooms in federal workplaces, including Parliament," where this photo was taken today. So let me get this straight. You're giving tampons for free in the men's bathroom, but you're making women pay for them in the women's bathroom? Why is that? That's weird. This is because Justin Trudeau does not want to pay for his tampons that he needs to use. So he's forcing his ex-wife, I should say now, to pay for her own tampons now. That's the most ultimate petty that I could see. This is ultimate petty scale. I say it broke the scale. Moving on to the next article, we actually have a Federalist article. We have, let me see here. Okay, silence in the face of Hamas hospital atrocities would ensure more civilians die. A few facts seem to matter as international organizations and the press ignore documented evidence of Al-Shifa's hospital military use. So, for weeks, Hamas has denied it was using Al-Shifa Hospital, Gaza's largest medical complex, as a base of operations. Captured Hamas terrorists tell a different story. They admit to using hospitals for military purposes, as well as hiding places for their superiors. Ahmed Kahad, the arrested director of the Kamal Edwin Hospital in Gaza, recently confessed to Israel's domestic security agency, quote, "Hamas has offices inside hospitals. There are places for senior officials. They also brought a kidnapped soldier there. There is a designated place for investigations, internal security, and special security. They all have private phone lines inside the hospital. Still, many in the media, and especially the United Nations and International Red Cross, supposedly designed to protect civilian lives, have yet to offer an unequivocal condemnation of the usage. When it comes to Hamas's usage of Al-Shifa and other commanded hospitals in the international community, has abated its responsibility. Indeed, the effective silence of the rest of the world only ensures that Hamas will continue to rely on civilian structures. Despite corporate news outlets such as the New York Times attempting to portray Hamas's usage of hospitals as a contested matter, it is not. Hamas has a long and storied history of utilizing civilian facilities such as hospitals, schools, and mosques for its military terrorism operations. As the military engagement continues, rife with accuracy, misreporting, it is worth recalling the illustrative instance of Al-Shifa Hospital in particular, a civilian medical complex that has served as the headquarters of Hamas. There's nothing novel about Hamas using Al-Shifa as a base of operations during the 2014 Gaza war. The Washington Post London bureau chief William Booth asserted that Al-Shifa Hospital has become a de facto headquarters for Hamas's leaders, who can be seen in the hallways and the offices. Even Amnesty International, amid its virulent anti-Israel settlement, managed to cobble together an accusation in 2014 that Hamas was tutoring Palestinians in certain sections of the hospital. Initially, Al-Shifa Hospital was an army barracks during the British Mandate of Palestine. It became a small health facility in 1946 and was converted into a central hospital while Gaza was under Egyptian rule. After the 1967 Six-Day War, Egyptian forces surrendered at the hospital, and Israeli architects Gershon Zipper and Benjamin Edelson modernized the complex in the 1980s. One of the enhancements included the installation of a secure underground operating room. The basement was the starting point for Hamas's conversion of the medical facility into a military complex. Law regarding hospitals during war. The Geneva Conventions that regulate the conduct of war state that civilian hospitals and medical establishments are protected from combat to ensure the safety of medical personnel. Helpless patients and enemy forces are unable to engage in combat. That protection is internationally respected and codified in Article 18 of the 4th Geneva Convention and Article 19 of the 1st Geneva Convention. However, the protection is not absolute and ceases to exist if hospitals are used to commit outside their humanitarian duties, acts harmful to the enemy. From the beginning of the Region of Terror in 2007, Hamas used Al-Shifa Hospital, among others, to terrorize civilians, torture and kill Israeli collaborators, and shield Hamas operatives from legitimate military objectives. Countless journalists from outlets hostile to Israel have reported Hamas's activity within, around, and below the hospital. The hospital also served as a weapons arsenal, a launching point for rockets targeting Israel, and headquarters of Hamas leadership. Its denial of these documented facts is as false as its original claim that it did not kidnap Israelis, one of whom was seen being dragged through Al-Shifa. Rather than isolate Al-Shifa as far as possible from military objectives as recommended by Geneva Conventions, Hamas has situated a central hub for its terror activities inside the hospital. In the current war, and despite the many naysayers, there is ample evidence of that Al-Shifa Hospital is not simply a medical facility used for humanitarian purposes and deserving of full protection under international law. The basement Israel built was confirmed by captured Hamas terrorists to be a critical site in Hamas's underground tunnel network. Both Israel and United States intelligence confirmed Hamas's use of hospital as part of its military campaign. In fact, Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, has enough evidence of Hamas's abusive use of Al-Shifa to arrest its director, Mohammed Abu Salamiyah, for permitting Hamas to exploit the hospital while under its supervision. Israel established this hospital for being used for military purposes. It also met the next criteria of international law regarding its conduct in targeting the hospital as a military site. Protections afforded a hospital during war cease only after due warning has been given, with a reasonable time limit, and after such warning has remained unhealed. Israel adhered to international law in providing sufficient warnings in 3 weeks to evacuate the hospital. By the time the IDF entered the hospital, most of the civilians have been evacuated. Now, you have to say, after 3 weeks, what's the reason why you did not leave the hospital? If you got killed inside of the hospital after 3 weeks of warnings, why did you not leave? That's questions we need to ask here. The IDF brought in collaborators, medical teams, and Arabic speakers to minimize danger to civilians who could be used as human shields by Hamas. The IDF also created a humanitarian corridor to enable Red Crescent ambulances to transport patients, including babies, to southern Gaza and Egypt for medical care, purveying Hamas's lives. Few of the facts seem to matter as international organizations and the press ignore Al-Shifa's horrendous history and documented evidence of its continued military use. Pundits and other purveyors of sloppy information will likely continue to favor slogans and often fake graphic images from Hamas's public relations arm over Israel's adherence to both treaty and customary international law. These accusing Israel of war crimes fail to distinguish between deliberate and incidental harm to civilians as they parrot the Gaza Health Ministry's historical facility casualty numbers. Okay, so, of course, this whole entire situation would not even be the case if Gaza did not start the war on October 7th. Although the Biden administration is skeptical about the numbers of Palestinians killed in the war, the number is likely to be very high, but the number of casualties is not the foundation of war crimes, despite how emotionally triggering it is. What matters under international law is the conduct of those engaged in battle. The principle of proportionality addresses harm to civilians and requires that Quote, expected international incidental harm is not exclusive in relation to the anticipated military advantage. Proportionality is not an eye for an eye concept, but one that allows a response in which incidental harm to civilians is with the actual scope of the military goal, such as destroying Hamas and the unlawful equipment it hides in civilian complexes like Al-Shifa. Israel is entitled to win this war, morally and legally. The horrible reality is that many combatants and innocent people have died, largely due to the nature of urban warfare combined with Hamas's abuse of Palestinian civilians. In 2016 through 2017, when the United States-backed Iraqi army liberated the city of Mosul from the Islamic State, the world witnessed a similar loss of life, as the terrorist group like Hamas hid weapons in the civilian facilities, used innocent people as shields, and killed civilians trying to flee. In this current war, neither attacks on terror facilities masquerading as humanitarian facilities nor the number of casualties should distract from Israel's lawful and just effort to liberate the region of the stain on the humanity. And I completely agree. If you're going to sit here and break international code, if you're going to sit here and you're going to hide weapons inside of the hospital, then that's breaking international law. So why are you doing it again? It's because of the fact that you want to have a special cutout case just for Gaza. You just want to have a special cutout case just for you and nobody else, because of the fact that now you want to break international law. Other people don't want to break international law. Other people want to play fair and say, listen, just give us back the hostages. That's all you needed to do before October 7th. Give us back the hostages. Now on October 7th, now you made the situation even worse. You did not just merely take hostages. You now killed 1,200 Israelis. You then raped women. You then raped children. You kidnapped children. You broke into people's homes. And then, on top of that, you burned people inside of their homes with no escape. People were so burned to the floor that people were not even able to recognize them. Doctors were not even able to test their DNA to see who they were as a person because they were burned so badly. They were not even able to actually take DNA samples from people that died in car crashes because the car crashed and then exploded. Israel has been unjustly targeted from the Middle East for all of humanity. That's called the Holy Land. They have had, military dome shields to protect themselves for a reason, because they're always targeted. It's unjust, and Israel has the right to defend themselves, just as any other country has the right to defend themselves. And it's only right. It's only just. So, with that being said, God bless Israel. God bless all of the Jewish people that are unjustly being prosecuted for merely being Jewish at all college campuses, and God bless you. If you actually liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe down below, because I do post new episodes of my show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we do have a new show coming out on a new channel that I will be discussing very soon. Thank you all for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.